Hi everyone, welcome to my talk from the HarmCon, finding XSS on apple.com and building a proof of concept to leak your personal information with me, Shauno. Now this finding was a collaboration with Bug Bounty Hunter members as part of a perk for finding a certain amount on Barker. So just to mention some, OX Blackbird, Eugenia, iBruteForce, JTC Sec, G Prime, Holybug, XNL Hacker, Flagco, and more. So we all got together and chose a bug bounty program to hack on, and our target was apple.com. Now, our goal was to literally just try find a valid vulnerability. We didn't set a certain bug type that we were going to look for. The idea was, let's just see what Apple's got out there and go with the flow, because we're learning our target as we hack it. So the first thing was initial recon. Now, actually a hat tip to Sam Curry for this, because I read his hacking on Apple post where they earned up to, what was it, $500,000 or something, and he mentioned that he was actually just opening apps on his iPhone, such as Find a Friend, and was just literally testing them. Now, I've owned an iPhone for a good couple of years, and it's just something I've never done really, so I instantly turned on Burp, set it all up, and started monitoring the requests, and actually went and retested his vulnerability there. So after we got some initial recon, we actually found some interesting endpoints. So we started fuzzing for XSS and trying to get XSS. And from there, it's a case of leaking your personal information. Now, Apple won't pay on just alert 0. So we wanted to find a way to basically leak your information. Now, so initial recon. So as I say, Sam Curry mentioned that he was testing apps on his iPhone, and it's something I've never done before. So I literally went and retested his idle vulnerability and started to get a feel for things. Now, on every app that I opened, I always saw a request to bag.xml, and at first I ignored it because it's an XML file. I didn't think there'd be too much in there, and I just ignored it, if I'm honest. I was just messing around looking at things, and then eventually I looked in it, and literally what I saw was hundreds of endpoints. I'm not sure how many in total, but there was hundreds of endpoints for that Apple interacted with on these apps. So as you can see there, there's an example where you've got search.itunes.apple.com for the search API. Now, this endpoint will react differently based on certain parameters that you provide it, and it will show more information. So in the screenshot above, it will only show, I'm only showing you the URL, but it will also show you the headers and parameters that these will take. Now, that's for you to go do some hunting on and find out. So this for us was the initial recon. For those of you who know me, I'm twitter.com/ZShauno. I'm not really somebody to run lots of scanning tools and fuzzing. I'm much more dive into their mainware application, test their apps and things like that, and see how things work. And when it comes to recon, so those of you who have followed me for a good couple of years, you'll know that on TripAdvisor, I did kind of the same. So tripadvisor.com/robust.txt will contain all of the endpoints, or majority of the endpoints that are on TripAdvisor. I've got the same feeling here with this bag file. There's hundreds of endpoints, new subdomains that I've never seen. This for me, this is enough to go by. There's enough to check out here. There's no blindly scanning and checking things. The information I need is right here. So let's do the initial recon and started to fuzz for XSS. Now, we didn't set out to look for XSS, but upon fuzzing these endpoints that we found, we discovered that, okay, we can control a lot of input. Some of them are replying with text HTML. Let's try for XSS here. So I used a simple PHP curl script to literally query each of them because they're on different hosts. So if you're using Burp Intruder, for example, to query lots of different domains, if it's on the different host, then it can't do it, not as far as I'm aware anyway. So what I do is I host a PHP script locally and just run examp, so you can access it on localhost, and then I will run that through Burp Intruder and enumerate different hosts. So I do actually have a blog post on this on my Medium, so zshauno.medium.com, where you can check it out. Now, one thing to mention with this, and why I like using certain scripts like this, is some Apple domains and endpoints will only respond with certain user agents. So I've given an example of a user agent there. if you, I mean, think about Apple. I mean, this does apply to a lot of other different web applications and that, but our target was Apple. Apple makes iPhones, and a lot of their endpoints and domains will only respond to mobile-based user agents. If you try access it with a desktop user agent, just a blank screen, nothing happens. But if you give it the right user agent that it wants, it will respond and you can start doing things. Now, I found that on a lot of their API calls that you needed specific user agents for them to be able to say, yeah, okay, I'll react to this. So don't just blindly scan with your user agents. Know your target and know what you're looking for. So with Intruder going, one endpoint responded with an error expecting a post request. It literally said, error expecting post request. That's interesting to me. Let's check it out. So on further scanning, we actually found 4 of these endpoints were responding to a post request. And it would literally, we tested it a little bit more, and whatever post data we give it, it would literally spit out in the response. Except it was always encoded, URL encoded. It wasn't giving us just straight HTML tags. We couldn't just get XSS. Now, for potentially this is a dead end, okay? It doesn't work. Maybe somebody's been here before us. However, now, because again, this was a collaboration event with members of bugbountyhunter.com, and we have a diverse group of members, different talents, different expertise and things like that, Eugenia mentioned, set the form encoding type, so ENC type, to text/plain and see if that works. So we tried it, and yeah, it reflected our payload as HTML, a valid HTML tag, and we got XSS. Now, the reason for that is, well, in all honesty, I'm not quite sure what was happening behind the scenes. It's just the fact that, I guess, because we've set the encoding type to text plain, so if we don't set that by default, it will send it as like URL encoded stuff. But if you set it to text plain, it sends the payload just as that, literally just text. It's just text being sent over. So then when it gets reflected, because the content type was text HTML, it reflects our HTML tags, and we managed to get XSS. So as you can see here, we have form action along with the domain, a method post, and then ENC type text/plain. Now, this specific endpoint would take any post data you give it. So we literally just give it test and then the payload image source X on error alert. And there we have our XSS. But working XSS. Now what? What do we do now? So we've got 4 working XSSs that actually affect 25 plus Apple domains. Now, because again we was collaborating and we were sharing lots of information, a few researchers who specialize in subdomain scanning, running certain tools, they've even got their own custom frameworks, they went and mass scanned to see if this endpoint existed anywhere else. And they actually found lots more, like I say, 25 plus endpoints where we now have XSS. And not only that, but it's 4 separate endpoints across there. So it's not just one endpoint, these are 4 separate different endpoints. They all work the same, but they're differently named, and they're different. Now, the problem is Apple, that's not the problem, I guess. Apple want to see an impact, but Apple won't pay on alert 0. So our options were leak the session cookies. Now, from our testing, most of Apple's actually seemed locked down. We didn't have access to many interesting things to be able to achieve account takeover and things like that. Now, we thought about perform a sensitive action on behalf of the user. So could we change their email? Could we leak some messages, emails, or something like that? Because Sam Curry created a wormable proof of concept for his XSS. Or our third option, which was leak personal information. Now, either of them could have worked, I guess, but personally, we chose the leak PII information. Because for me, when I'm recommending people hack on bug bounty programs, because again, this was a collaboration event and I'm hacking with members of Bug Bounty Hunter because I want to train, I don't want to just train you how to find these vulnerabilities, but I want to actually hack with you on bug bounty programs and help you find a bounty, find a real bug out there. So when it comes to actually training people, I would say to them, set a goal, set a task that you want to try and achieve. Now we've got our XSS and we know we can run some JavaScript on apple.com. Now the next task is finding somewhere where our personal information is stored. Now, we've all seen it from testing. If you've been testing for a good couple of years, there'll be some sort of endpoint that is content type application / JSON, and it has your personal information on it. Name, email, certain things like that. A lot of websites have it. Usually if you open some sort of mobile app, they'll make a query to API/me or something like that. Now, second of all, we're looking for access control allow origin, because what this says to the browser is whatever domain is in the response after that can have access to this information. You can read this. Now, obviously, if they allowed any domain in there, then it would be an issue in itself. But with our XSS, we want our domains to be there after the access control allow origin, so our XSS can read the response of this. So we've got two tasks here. Now, it's back to Recon. So, again, as this was a collaboration event, we have a lot of members with lots of different expertise. So a lot of us were going to hunt on every single app that Apple owned. So Find a Friend, FaceTime, iMessages, things like that. And we were checking for as many different places where we could find our personal information. So we would sign up to the App Store, go into manage your account, see what request was made. Was it a certain request to, like, appstore.apple.com/API/self, potentially with auth cookies that would show you your information. We also had lots of different members continuing to fuzz and scan across subdomains, looking for some common things, looking for more subdomains that we could log in, because that was the main thing. We wanted to log into an account and access our personal information and view the request of that. Now, we found this XSS probably within a day of starting this event, and it took about 3 days to go through a lot of Apple stuff and test and see what was what. Now, a lot of Apple endpoints will respond to the origin header. So when you're testing for cause bugs, which is cross-origin resource sharing, if you see access control allow origin on the response, then if you can control the origin header, so if you could put evil.com and it responds saying access control allow origin evil.com, that says evil.com can read this response. Now, in our case, a lot of them were locked down. So imagine you're on appstore.apple.com. All the API endpoints and things on there would only allow appstore.apple.com to access them. And the same with a lot of others. But some were a lot more relaxed than others. So imagine you're on music.apple.com and it would allow for music.apple.com as well as appstore.apple.com. So it wasn't just locked down to one domain. So for me, I said this to members, this is interesting. Some endpoints are working differently. There's different code working here. Things have been built differently. Potentially there's going to be some old legacy code, something really old that's been forgotten about that works a bit differently. And that's something I mentioned in my methodology, which is completely free, by the way, at bugbounty.hunter.com/zshorno. But it's to learn your target as you're hunting through. So the fact that things are working differently here would say to me different teams, different code bases, different age of the code and things like that. And you learn your target. Okay, this worked differently, and you're writing all your notes down. So the fact that some endpoints were more relaxed than others, it just gives me that hackery gut feeling that somewhere on Apple there will be what I've called a golden endpoint that will allow me to not only have the personal information of the user, but allow me to read the contents of that from my XSS domain. Somewhere there will be, and this is again why when I'm doing my recon and I'm doing my testing, I'm not blindly running tools. I'm straight in their web application, seeing what's used, certain headers, parameters, how things work, and I'm learning my target as I go through, because I actually found quite a few other interesting things as I was signing up to each of these Apple apps and websites. I wasn't diving into that part straight away because I was just focused on finding personal information and where I could leak it, but it helps you learn the target. So yeah, definitely check that out at bugbounty.hunter.com/zshorno. It's completely free to download and apply, really. So persistence actually pays off. It did take some time, like I say, about 3 or 4 days, but eventually we found an Apple endpoint where it responded with not only your full PII information, but it also allowed for any apple.com domain in the origin header. So we could put all of our XSS works, and it would respond with access control, allow origin with our Apple domain there. We have access to this. And that's another tip. Don't give up too early. So obviously, I mean, there was a lot of people hands-on looking at this, but I get a lot of people of DMs were saying they can't find anything. They've been hacking for a while. And I'm like, well, how long have you been hacking for? And they're like, oh, well, only 2 days, couple of days. If you're new to hacking and you're getting into it, one, you need to be able to enjoy the program. So I get a lot of people message me saying that they're like addicted to the Bug Bounty Hunter member section Barker, and they just want to hack on Barker, find more bugs on Barker. You need to get that same feeling when you're hacking on bug bounty programs. Get that same, I want to actually continue hacking on here. That's how I was with TripAdvisor when I went from having no rank all the way to number 2 overall from just TripAdvisor, because I was excited to hack on TripAdvisor. I enjoyed their scope, I enjoyed the program, and I wanted to. And the same with Amazon, whereas I've had other programs, admittedly such as Yahoo, where I've felt like I've had to force myself to hack a little bit on it. I just didn't enjoy it as much. It's just personal choice, I guess. But set a goal and go for that target. So your goal, first of all, should be test all the features and note down where you can control inputs, where it's reflected, and how things work. And you eventually go through it, and after a couple of months, if you haven't found anything, then yeah, by all means DM me and I can help you out. But hopefully after 6 months, you should have found a bug, at least one bug on this target. So back to the XSS. Once we've got our XSS, and now we have somewhere to leak the information. It's literally a simple case of building a proof of concept to send an AJAX request to this endpoint and then read the response. So there's some basic JavaScript which literally sends a GET request to the endpoint apple.com/example not real. Now the with credentials true, this says to the browser, send this user's session cookies with the request. If this wasn't on here, then it wouldn't send the user's session details and they wouldn't be authenticated and you wouldn't get anything. So you need to have that on there, and on the response, you need to see access control allow credentials true, because this will allow, again, the sessions to come through. But typically you always see that on there based on how the web application works. But yeah, so there we go. User visits our website. The form post will automatically be submitted and retrieve their information. And there you can see in the alert that we have their telephone number, billing address, full name, and what they paid with, along with their email. So in this case, paid with PayPal. So it's not only got my Apple email, but my PayPal email. So I've got both information. And there we have literally opening a few apps on Apple's, on our iPhone, seeing a bag.xml file, scanning the endpoints to see how they work, finding one will take any post data, getting XSS, and then finding somewhere to leak this information. Because I will mention before the bounty, so this bug was fixed. Now, they not only fixed all of the XSSs, but they actually fixed the wonky cause bugs. So all of these endpoints which we used for leaking personal information, they fixed them. So they no longer allow for any apple.com subdomain. They only allow for the ones that they're meant to allow for, which is the case for majority of Apple. So like I say, there's a few of these hanging around, but they fixed all of that. Now, did they pay a bounty? At first, sadly, Apple said that our finding wasn't novel enough. And I've actually put there that our finding was not novel enough for a finding. It's meant to say our finding was not novel enough for a bounty. But then once we asked them, I kindly asked them, said, look, can I please write up this? Because it wasn't just an XSS finding, it was a massive bit of teamwork between all of Bug Bounty Hunter members who attended, and we all chipped in everything and worked together on this. So can we please write this up and share this? Now, after we asked to disclose this, they actually said, okay, this is a nice finding, didn't realise so much teamwork went into it, we're going to change our mind. And in the end, they rewarded us a 2,500 bounty, which we actually opted to donate the full amount to charity. And Apple kindly matched the amount, so we actually donated $5,000 to charity in total. thanks to Apple's bug bounty program and their kindness. So that's actually not the only time I've hacked with members. So like I say, this was one perk of being a member of Bug Bounty Hunter is when you hit a certain level and you've proven, I mean, you know what you're doing, you're hacking, we can all hack, we hack together on bug bounty programs because I want to help you become a bug bounty hunter. So this was back in February last year, and we've hacked a few other times on other bug bounty programs. And below is some stats basically of some programs that we've hacked on, as well as the amounts that we've earned. So we hacked on Apple. We only got that one finding. We weren't too keen on how long it took for them to kind of respond and pay out and things like that. So we didn't continue hacking on them. Kindred Group on HackerOne, which is public. We enjoyed this program a lot, and we actually earned 5 figures altogether. So it wasn't just me or just one person. This is collaboration. We split bounties, help each other out, and share information. And we are currently hacking on TripAdvisor and Amazon right now. And one of our members has actually risen to the top 5. I believe he's in top 3 now on Amazon's public program. So hats off to him and well done, because he's taken what he's learned on Barker and applied it on a bug bounty program. And you can actually browse a list of all of our recognized bug bounty hunters as well, who have all hit level 5 on bugbountyhunter.com/view hunters. And I just wanted to give, again, a shout out to the members that actually helped with the collaboration on this Apple bug, because it was a great time and it was a great finding and great teamwork, because, like I said, we managed to find some XSS and turn it into something with impact. And this is exactly, somebody could have found this by themselves if you put the time in, and it could have been a 2,500 bounty straight in your pocket, which is a nice amount for doing some hacking at home in the comfort of your own time and space and company, really. So yeah, that's our collaboration event and finding XSS on Apple. I hope you enjoyed our talk. And if you again want to check it out on bugbountyhunter.com, you can. There's lots of free challenges and guides and information on there to help you with your hunts. But if you have any questions or queries, feel free to ask me and I'm happy to answer them. But again, thank you for your time. Take care. Bye.